So today I thought I'd take a nice walk outside, hang out in nature for a little bit, and answer the question I saw on Reddit: how do I walk into a room as a charismatic person? So one of the first things that I'd point out with this is not so much what to do, it's more about who to be. What kind of person do you need to be in order to walk into a room as a charismatic guy or charismatic woman? And the answer to that is in this idea or this passage. In order to receive something, we first must become that. Or in other words, in order to get something, we have to first become it. I'm going to share a story kind of explaining what I mean by that. So, back when I first moved to Los Angeles, this was 7, 8, 9 years ago. I was brand new to the city. I didn't know anyone there, and I was crashing at a friend's place, just sleeping on his couch. And I just started a job in sales. I was trying to get going, trying to figure out who I was going to be and how I was going to make my mark there. I knew no one else in the city, so he invited me out to a networking event within a few weeks of moving there, and I gratefully accepted. So on the way there, though, I started to get in my head, and I started asking myself, well, what are these people going to think of me? In LA, I've heard rumors. People here are very stuck up. They're very standoffish, very indifferent to you. Unless you're making six figures or you're a celebrity, they're not going to want to talk to you. So all this going on in my head, and I get to the networking event, and sure enough, everyone there is very standoffish and indifferent and very judgmental of me. And it was really difficult to make any kind of connection. And so I was by the punch table waiting for my friend just to wrap it up, just to get it over with so I could get out of there. And he finally finished up, and we were riding down the elevator down to the lobby. And I asked him, I said, that was awful. I mean, didn't that suck? People are so standoffish here. And he said, what do you mean? I said, what are you talking about? He said, I had a lot of fun. I just connected with a lot of people. I met a lot of potential connections here in business. And I thought, are you crazy? That's not at all what I got. I got people being rude to me, judgmental of me, indifferent to me, and really standoffish to me. And he said, well, I know why. I said, yeah, because we're in Los Angeles. He said, no. He said, because of you. He said, because every time I saw you networking or trying to connect with people, you were being really standoffish, rude, judgmental, and indifferent. Every time I would see you start a conversation, you would just lose eye contact and you would disconnect from that person almost immediately. Now, in hearing him say that, I had an option, and I could have continued to play victim. I could have said, well, no, it's not me, it's the people here. And it's amazing how quickly the brain can generalize a belief. How quickly the brain can say, well, just because I've had this one or two little tiny experiences, therefore everything must be like that. And I could have gone that route, but I had been studying how the mind works and how the emotions work and how what we have going on in our mental and emotional states affect everything that we project and send out. And so I decided to be open to that. I decided to take that advice in, and I started to look inwardly on how I was showing up at events like that, because that wasn't the first time that happened where I would get judgment from other people, or at least I would perceive that, or people would be standoffish toward me. This would happen frequently. And I started asking myself, well, what am I putting out there? Because I knew that our thoughts and our emotions are always being unconsciously broadcasted through our body language and our facial expressions. We can't help it. We send out what's going on in here and in here unconsciously. And if we're in a depressed state or a sad state or in an anxious state or any kind of negative state, we can't help but display that to the world. We can't help but make that what we're projecting, what we're sending out. It's, in other words, it's written all over our faces. And so I understood this. And I asked myself, well, what am I putting in my mind before I go to one of these events? And I'd spent so much time focusing on all the ways it could go wrong, all the ways I'm going to get shot down, how all the people there are going to be standoffish and rude toward me, how awkward it would be. And that's what I was holding in my mind and in my heart right before I went to this event. And I discovered that my expectation was becoming reality. And it wasn't until I shifted that and started changing how I was showing up that I started to get different results in my life. And what I started to do instead was I would focus on what kind of impact I wanted to have with people at that event. How do I want people to react to me once I get there? And I would hold that in my mind. I would focus on that constantly. So instead of focusing on how people could be standoffish or judgmental or weird toward me, what I started to do instead was just ask myself, well, what if I focused on how they're being open to me, how they're being warm to me, how they're being excited to talk to me? And I began visualizing that and affirming that and declaring that in my life. And what happened was my expectation became reality. It became a self-fulfilling prophecy. Instead of me focusing on all the ways I could be disconnected from another person, I began focusing on all the ways I could connect with them, how everything would just easily flow in my life. And I started noticing people would respond to me differently. So to come back around to your question, what does a charismatic person do when they walk into a room? They connect with people. And they connect not just with their words, but with their body language, with eye contact, with energy. They walk into that room and they send out a message of absolute warmth and excitement because they have become what they want to receive in another person. Rather than focusing on all the ways they could be shot down, they're focusing on all the ways they can connect, and they're holding that in their mind with a very strong sense of certainty and expectation as they go walk into that event. And what I learned and what I used to mess up was I would walk into an event with the energy of, it was basically the equivalent of me holding up a giant sign that said, "Do not connect with me. It's not going to work." And that became my life, my self-fulfilling prophecy, because who I was in here was always being sent out. And other people were feeling that and then responding to it. So in order to be charismatic, in order to walk into a room and capture the hearts and the minds of everyone in there, you have to connect with them. But more importantly, it's not what you do, it's who you are. Because when you're socializing, you don't get what you want, you always get who you are. And who you are is a reflection of what you're focusing on, your internal states. So the best advice I can give you is to hold an internal representation, the exact reaction you want to see other people have when you walk into a room. Hold that in your mind, visualize it, affirm it, and speak it into existence. And do it every single day, because what you focus on expands. You do that, you can walk into a room and make a dynamite first impression. There you go.